August 6, 1997. The night sky over Guam was alive with thunder. Rain slammed against the windows, lightning tore across the clouds. And deep inside that storm, Korean Air Flight 801 struggled through the darkness. Inside the Boeing 747 were 254 souls, families, children, business travelers, and a tired flight crew just trying to make it home. No one aboard knew that their journey was only minutes away from tragedy. The cabin lights flickered softly. Some passengers slept with blankets pulled up to their faces. Others watched the dim horizon through small windows blurred by rain. To them, this was just another late-night flight from Seoul to Guam. But to the island waiting below, it would soon become a nightmare. Rain streaked down the cockpit windshield as Captain Park Dae-han focused on the radar. His voice was calm, confident, but beneath it, exhaustion echoed. He had flown over 9,000 hours in his career. Tonight, that experience would be tested against the fury of the sky itself. Almost there, he murmured to his co-pilot. The co-pilot nodded quietly. Outside, lightning lit the clouds like flashes from a camera. Bright for a moment, then gone. And in those black seconds between the light, danger was waiting. Korean Air Flight 801 had taken off from Seoul just after midnight. It was supposed to be a routine 6-hour journey across the Pacific. But as the aircraft neared Guam, weather conditions began to deteriorate rapidly. Thick clouds rolled in. Visibility dropped to almost zero. And to make things worse, the airport's glide path guidance system, the ILS, was out of service for maintenance. The crew would have to rely entirely on manual navigation and visual cues. Captain Park adjusted the controls. "We'll continue the approach," he said. The co-pilot hesitated. "Sir, maybe we should go around..." Wait for better visibility. But the captain had done this approach dozens of times. He believed he could handle it. The descent continued. Altitude slowly dropped. 2,000 feet, 1,800, 1,600. In the cockpit, rain and radio static filled the air. Fatigue was setting in. The crew had been awake for hours, fighting the storm and the instruments. And fatigue can blur even the sharpest judgment. Suddenly, the aircraft's ground proximity warning system came alive. A harsh mechanical voice screamed through the cockpit. "Sync rate! Pull up! Pull up!" The captain looked outside, but all he saw was black. The co-pilot's voice broke through the storm. "Go around, sir! Terrain! Terrain!" The captain pulled back on the yoke. Engines roared, but it was already too late. At 1:42 a.m., Korean Air Flight 801 slammed into the top of Nimitz Hill, just 3 miles short of the runway. The explosion lit up the island like a second sunrise. Flames burst through the jungle, metal tore through the trees, and screams echoed into the rain. Rescue teams across Guam saw the fireball from miles away. They raced toward the mountain, climbing through mud and smoke, guided only by the glow of burning jet fuel. "We can hear people screaming," one firefighter radioed. "But we can't reach them yet." Rain poured as rescuers struggled to reach the wreckage. The forest burned like a torch, the heat so intense it melted their boots. When they finally reached the broken fuselage, they found survivors, burned, bleeding, crying for help. Only 26 people survived that night. The rest were gone, lost to fire and smoke. Among the survivors was a 12-year-old girl, her voice trembling as she told investigators later, "I woke up. Everything was red. There was smoke everywhere. I thought I was dreaming." Hours later, when dawn broke over Guam, the full horror was revealed. Scattered across the hill were fragments of the Boeing 747, wings twisted, engines buried deep in the soil, and the tail lying hundreds of meters away. Investigators began piecing together what had gone wrong. They recovered the cockpit voice recorder, half burned but still functional. When they played it back, what they heard was chilling. The captain's voice was calm at first, then uncertain. The co-pilot tried to warn him several times, but fatigue, overconfidence, and confusion made him press on. And when the terrain alarm sounded, the reaction came seconds too late. The truth soon became clear. The aircraft had descended too early, hundreds of feet below the proper altitude. Without the ILS guidance system, the pilots relied on their eyes, but all they could see was darkness and rain. The NTSB report was blunt. The probable cause? Captain's failure to properly execute a non-precision approach due to fatigue, misjudgment, and lack of crew coordination. It was a cruel combination: human exhaustion, bad weather, and a malfunctioning system. Together, they turned a routine flight into one of the deadliest disasters in Korean aviation history. The tragedy shook Korean Air to its core. Their reputation plummeted. International passengers refused to fly with them. But instead of collapsing, the airline rebuilt itself completely. They overhauled their training systems, improved crew communication, and transformed their safety culture. Years later, Korean Air would become one of the safest airlines in the world. But the ghosts of Flight 801 never truly disappeared. For the survivors, that night never ended. One flight attendant who survived said she could still hear the cries of passengers whenever she closed her eyes. Another man who lost his wife in the crash returned to Guam every year to light a candle on Nimitz Hill. He said, "It's where the sky and the earth met and took everything I loved. They were only 3 miles away. 3 miles from safety, 3 miles from home. But in those 3 miles, the storm took everything." The lesson of Flight 801 still echoes through the aviation world. Fatigue kills, overconfidence blinds, and even the most experienced pilots are only human. August 6, 1997, Guam will never forget the night the mountain caught fire. And the world will never forget the souls of Korean Air Flight 801, who vanished into the storm just moments before dawn.